What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Truman Builds Businesses. Today we're going to talk about my first month running my junk removal slash dump trailer rental business. And I'm just going to get right into it. So we'll start off with the numbers first. So for revenue, we brought in $1,601 for the first month. For the expenses, we did $520 in advertisement, and then we spent another $68 in operating expenses. And for the first month, we made the net operating income was about $961. I wasn't tracking mileage, and I didn't have the insurance on the business card yet, so the numbers are going to be a little offset there. It's not entirely accurate, but rough ballpark, probably around, honestly, like $750, $800, honestly. If we were tracking the insurance as well. Okay, so the net operating income for the first month was about $961. Again, not including any mileage or anything like that, and not including kind of insurance. So now let's go into how I went to the market and how I got the jobs. So I don't remember off the top of my head, because we're getting into month 3 now when I'm filming this. I don't remember off the top of my head how many different jobs I had, but I can tell you the best job and the worst job that I had. So the best job that I had, it was the best one. It was the biggest. It was also honestly the worst. We had a homeless encampment. Somebody called me and said, "Hey, got a homeless encampment deal. Can you come out and do this? I'll pay you X amount." I went to the property. I took a look at it. Said, "Yeah, I can do it for that number," and I started basically that day. It took me, all in all, I think it took about, let's say 32 hours between me and another dude. Actually, that seems high. I think it actually took us about 20 hours, all in all, between me and another dude. I did pay him, and that was probably the best and the worst. Best as in it brought in the most revenue. Worse as in it took the most of our time. The other bad thing about it was technically it was at the end of the month, of the first month, and so it rolled over. So part of the payment rolled over into the second month, which we'll talk about on one of these next videos that I give a little update on. But anyway, it was kind of an interesting story. Like I said, somebody called me and said, "Hey, we've got this problem. Can you come out?" I said, "Yeah, I can go do it." Started getting into it or whatever. I actually hired a homeless guy for about 2 hours because he came up and asked, actually, you know what? We'll save that for another video. So that was the best job and the worst job. Best job because it brought in some good amount of money. Worst job because it probably took the most amount of time. And it was just kind of dirty work, to be completely honest. But you don't really get into junk removal without thinking that it's going to be somewhat dirty, right? The absolute worst job is the job that you don't get paid for, and that actually happened to me in the first month. So I had a guy reach out, said, "Hey, I need a trailer for this day, need it for X amount of days." I said, "Okay, cool." Sent him over a contract, sent him over an invoice, and delivered the trailer, and it was a scam. So I'll kind of roll that into lessons learned, I guess. So in my opinion, in my experience so far, if you're gonna go rent out a piece of equipment, whether that's a dump trailer, a skid steer, whatever you want to rent out, I would 100% start getting some contracts in place. And the reason is you want to protect yourself from damage or anything that happens. Let's say that you're renting out a skid steer and the person goes off and tears up somebody's house or some property of some sort. You don't want to be responsible for that. And I don't know how they might pin that on you, but it's probably just better safe. It's better to be safe than sorry, honestly. But the other thing also is because in my case, in the dump trailer specifically, you want to put things in place to protect you in case somebody tries to throw something away that they're not supposed to throw away. Whether that's illegal things, hazardous things, whatever the case is, or maybe your landfill that's close to you that you dump, maybe they're a class 1 and they don't do paint or liquids or oils or tires or whatever. You want to be able to go back to that customer and charge them for those things, basically, and make sure that you're off the hook from any illegal things, really. So that's number one. Number two is you want to protect your property, your asset, your equipment. In my case, the dump trailer, it is an asset that I need to make money off of. And you've got to protect that any way that you can. Whether it's damages or theft or whatever, you need to put that in the contract to make sure that you are protected in case something does happen. And then the third thing is really just setting your expectations for what's going to happen for the customer. I've gotten several questions since I've started this of how does this work? Well, if it's in the contract, there's no guarantee that they're going to read it, but if they sign it, at least it's an acknowledgement that they got it and they should have read it, because you should read contracts when they come your way, before you sign it at least. But I've gotten a lot of questions about how does this work? And in the contract, you can just state exactly how it's going to work. Hey, I'm going to drop off the trailer, I'm going to lock it up, and then you're going to fill it up. Whenever you're done, I'm going to come up on this day, I'm going to load it up, and I'm going to take it away and dump it. And it's just as simple as that. I'm kind of ad-libbing here, so bear with me. But there's a piece of setting the expectation so where when you get there to the job and the rental starts or whatever, they're not trying to throw extra things on you without you getting paid. Because if they're going to take up more of your time or more of your equipment or whatever the case is, you can get paid for that if you have it in the contract. Contracts are legally binding, and make sure that it's it's legally sound, right? But contracts, you gotta have them, in my opinion. The second lesson that I learned is invoicing. So I know how invoicing works. I've sent out invoices, all that good stuff. Pay attention to your turn dates. Are you doing, due upon receipt, 15 days, 30 days, 45, 90, whatever your case is, whatever you're comfortable with. But if you're requiring that there's some kind of deposit, you need to get that out as soon as possible, and you need to get them to pay before you go out there. So I'll give you a quick story on the invoices. So the scam, I had a guy reach out, I talked to him, all that good stuff, got an address, got a time, all was well. I sent him over an invoice. He's going back and forth with me. I didn't get this invoice, whatever, I sent it again. This is the day of. He tells me we're good to go. He's going to pay the invoice, all that good stuff. I'm like, okay, you say you're going to pay. I've got time to go deliver this because it was about an hour away. I send the invoice before I get in the truck. I start heading his way. He pays it almost immediately. I get there, I drop it off, I leave, and then I get the notification that it might be a scam. Now, I have some things in place, such as I have a GPS tracker on my trailer, all that good stuff, so I could see the trailer at all times. So I know he wasn't loading it up and taking it off somewhere and trying to steal it. Who's to say that wasn't his intention? But it didn't happen, so I gave him the benefit of the doubt for a little bit, and then finally I actually met with a property owner who was looking for a dump trailer, but was not hiring this guy to do it or whatever. It was kind of messy. Anyway, long story short, I didn't get paid for any of it. It was kind of a waste of time. Not a big deal, lesson learned. The third lesson that I learned in the first month of operating my junk removal and my dump trailer business is that you can't take everybody's word at face value. You have to be very upfront about what can and can't be put away in your dump trailer or in your dumpster or whatever the case is, what you can and cannot remove and all that good stuff, because somebody's going to tell you, oh, I just have some stuff in the garage, I'm going to throw away this Christmas tree and some clothes and some this and that or whatever else, and just some trash that's been piling up or whatever, and you're going to say, okay, cool. And you're gonna give them the trailer, you're gonna let them rent it out, all that stuff, you're gonna get contracts, you're gonna do all this different stuff, and then inevitably you're gonna go pick up the trailer and you're gonna find out that they threw away something that they weren't supposed to. Now, like I said before, the contracts, I did not have everything stated, hey, you can't throw this away in my dump trailer or whatever if you rent it out. And that's another reason why I brought up the whole contract thing. And that's a whole reason why I'm also talking about being upfront. I should have told that guy up front these are the things that you cannot throw away. You cannot put these in my dump trailer. If you do, there's going to be an issue. Whether that's, I'm not saying that this is how I would have handled it had I known before, but it's up to you. You could dump the stuff right there and refuse the load, give them their money back. You could charge them more because you got to deal with this paint or whatever else you can't throw away. However you want to deal with it is however you want to deal with it. But be upfront and tell them, even if it's in the contract, because like I said, not everybody reads contracts. The fourth lesson I learned, and this is probably the most important one, is wherever you have your business listed, if you have a phone number, answer the phone. That's exactly how I got the homeless job. That's exactly how there was another job or two in there as well, where I had my phone number listed. I just got a phone call and I answered it. Here we are. I ended up getting a job out of it. So answer the phone, and be quick about it. Don't be afraid to, if it's a spam call or whatever, just answer the phone and hang up. But if it's legit, answer the phone and you'll probably get some jobs that way. So now we're going to talk about how I went to the market for the first month that I ran my business. There might be some guys that watch this and go, well, that's kind of light, whatever. It is my first month, but also you have to understand that I only went to the market two different ways, and really it was in the same suite. So I went on Facebook Marketplace, listed it there on my personal account, and then I also started a business account where I ran a couple of small ads, and that's where some of the $520 we talked about in the expenses, that's where some of that came from. I ran a couple of small ads to try to get the name out there, grab some followers, grab some attention, whatever. Because the thing is the competition around where I'm at is it's not entirely saturated, I'd say, but there is quite a bit of competition. And so you got to really get yourself out there and get in front of people. It's a numbers game at the end of the day. And, as I'm learning now, I'm just started into month 3. You can get in front of a lot of different people. You can have a lot of different conversations started, but they wander off and they go somewhere else or whatever the reason may be. It might be pricing, it might be availability, whatever it is. But you want to start those conversations, and you want to get as many of those conversations as you possibly can. So that was my first month. If you guys like this kind of content, please share, subscribe, comment, whatever, all that good stuff. Give me your thoughts, give me your opinions, whatever you guys want to talk about in the comments below. My goal here is to create a community around entrepreneurs and people that want to build businesses who are, don't necessarily want to listen to a guru with, oh, I've done this and I've done that and, all that different stuff, and I'm trying to sell you a course. That's not necessarily my goal, and trying to flex, a fake Lamborghini or whatever the case is, right? So I'm just trying to build a community of people that are like-minded, want to build businesses for themselves and build things, right? So if you guys like this content, please subscribe and all that good stuff, and we'll see you on the next one.